And we are on.
Hello.
Hello.
We have Diane Porterfield-Bourne, is that right?
Yes, that's right.
That's right. And you are a menopause nurse practitioner, yeah?
Yes, that's right. Based in Worcestershire, but I advise people all over the UK.
Right, okay.
Fabulous.
Because we've been obviously having a look at a bit of a look into you.
We've
We've been stalking
Diane,
you.
so.
And you were recommended for us to speak to by the lovely Jill Edwards.
Yes,
Because she speaks very highly of you, and said you need to speak to Diane. You need to speak to Diane. So we thought, right, well, let's get Diane on then. So
Yeah.
do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, like your background and your run up to where you are now?
Yeah, I've been nursing since I was 17. I've worked in emergency care, minor injury units, most of my working life. I've travelled and worked abroad. I came back to England about 9 years ago, and I sort of developed my own business then, realising that I've always been really interested in health promotion and health education all the way through my nursing. I was nominated for a Nursing Times Award back in 2005 for promoting health in the community, because I'd realised there were some issues where I was living at the time of teenagers and issues with unprotected sex and alcohol and drugs and things like this. And so that completely snowballed and it became quite a big thing where I was living. And so that really got me into the thing about supporting women and supporting people with health education. So when I started my business, I was predominantly looking towards educating people on all aspects of their health, because obviously my nurse practitioner background means that I'm used to dealing with all things related to health. And then I specialised more in menopause. I met somebody, a bit of a fluke really, and she started to talk to me about menopause. What do you know about it? Can you help me with it? I said, well, I know a little bit about menopause, but what exactly do you want me to find out for you? So she said, I'm having a really bad time, struggling with my symptoms. There doesn't seem to be anybody that can help me. And it was really from that chance meeting that I started to do my own bit of research into menopause and realised that what she was saying was absolutely spot on, that there were very little services for women. There was a lot of confusion and it really impacted on her quality of life. She'd given up work, she was struggling with symptoms and she was getting mixed messages from everybody. So it was really from that chance meeting with her, it was quite a few years ago now, but it led me on to focusing more on menopause and supporting women's health. And from that point on, it's just got bigger and bigger. I've been involved with Dr. Louise Newson. I've worked with her and I've done some courses with her and done some education. Done British Menopause Society courses, and I support health professionals in the UK and in Europe as well, and advise them about menopause and things to look for and how they can support women within the GP practice. And then I run private clinics all over the UK, really, because I'm a nurse prescriber. So talk about menopause and how it impacts people's health, and I prescribe as well. So I'm back here living in Worcestershire again now.
Wow. Is it Bell Broughton where your practice is?
Yeah, I work through Butoxology, which is a beautiful aesthetic practice there.
Wow.
And it's run by Dee. She's a highly experienced nurse practitioner in aesthetics, and so I like to work with other medically based people. And because it's about looking after women, every aspect of women's health really, either from their point of view, it's the aesthetic appearance of it, but it's all about when the skin changes and we age and the effects of the lack of estrogen can have on the skin, then that has on your weight gain, it has on your mind, how you feel about yourself. And so it's a huge subject. So I like to work with other qualified people.
Brilliant. I think it's got a lot to answer for estrogen, hasn't it, really? So yeah, definitely. I think just because I know obviously we don't know that much about one another, I think for myself and Deb, we are currently perimenopausal. So, and I think we wanted to like record our journey, our own like private journey, and also just speak to as many different people out there. I mean, we've had guests on the podcast that are just ladies that are going through it. We've had a young lady who knows nothing about it. We've got men, you know, all sorts of different people, professionals, as well as obviously just ordinary ladies who are experiencing quite horrendous symptoms or to hardly any symptoms at all. So, and I think for us, it's all about people need to be talking about these things, don't they? And I think people don't do that enough. They
No,
don't at all.
I completely agree with you. And that's really where I'm coming from. I'm there really to be talking more to the general public. And it's a case of raising awareness of menopause. But I do really, really feel strongly that menopause fundamentally needs to be taught by medically based people, because it's a medical condition. You know, it's all about, you know, estrogen deficiency fundamentally, from the ending of fertility. And so there are lots of people out there that do advise about menopause and charge people quite a lot of money to enroll in their groups and things. But I really do think that menopause needs to come from medically qualified menopause people, because we understand health and we understand the implications of, like you said, about estrogen and estrogen deficiency symptoms. And it's from us that we can then push people to actually thinking, okay, I've got to raise awareness of this. This is what I need to do. And you can then see symptoms in yourself, and you can see symptoms in your friends and your colleagues as well. And then it's sort of like the little ripple effect, isn't it? About they'll then tell their friends about it, and then they go, oh, I think she might be menopausal as well. She's got symptoms like me, and this is what I did. And so it's just about spreading the word.
Yeah,
and,
definitely.
What kind of groups would you advise women not to connect with, if you're saying like more of the medical side?
I think it's not so much about connecting with them. I think it's just taking things and analysing them for what they are. I mean, I do see lots of groups that are talking about different types of complementary medicines for menopause, and herbs and creams that you can buy. And this worked for me. You can buy it online for this, that, and the other. And a lot of it's all about self-promotion of their own personal business products. But there's, from a health perspective, I only advise on medically based, evidence proved that it works. If something doesn't work, there's no research to demonstrate it, I don't advise it, because the evidence is there and I can only base things on research. But a lot of people are saying about join different social media groups, buy this, do this, when they have no medical background, have no menopause experience. And it's just about selling products that the reality is that placebo effect might work for people. We know that. However, if you're spending a lot of money on something, you need to make sure that it actually does work. And it's all about making sure that you see for what it is. There are some therapies out there that are brilliant to support people and make you feel better. But there are a lot of things that don't, and that might actually be more detrimental. So it's a case of maybe not avoiding things, but just having that understanding that, you know, I'll just take this for what it is. I'll read a little bit about it. I'll do my own research.
Yeah.
I think you're right. It's getting the balance, isn't it? Because I think it's like for myself, and I know Susan, we're more down the holistic approach than going down the medical. And I'm just being honest there. It's a personal choice.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? So, but again, I wouldn't just put anything into my system, you know, without checking things out. You know, so I totally understand that. But you know, I think it's just getting the balance across both sides, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's understanding what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
We all know what we want to do and how our thoughts and our feelings are with it. And it's working out, well, if I did that from a complementary perspective, but I had to do this as well. And so it's a case of understanding both sides of the arguments, knowing how both of these can work together as complementary. They're supposed to work together. It's not one or all. It's about joint working. So I certainly don't advocate that it's definitely medical and nothing else at all.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah,
it's about working together, but the right things working together, because there are a lot of things that certainly don't, and that can actually be quite detrimental to people's health.
Yeah,
it's about getting that balance, really.
Have you ever come across anyone who was trying to do things by themselves and they tried this, that, and the other, and it hadn't worked, and then they come to you? And do you come across many people like that?
Yeah, right, that's a lot of people really.
Mm-hmm.
That they'll have bought over-the-counter medications because, again, that they'd read that they do something, or they'll say that they help me for a little bit. They help, particularly hot flushes and things. Oh, something helped me for a while, but it's come back with a vengeance now. And you know, you can see how it will all work out. You can see why they've got to where they have now. And a lot of people's views about traditional medicines with menopause is they view them as being, you failed, that you having to, oh, you know, I had to succumb and go to the doctor. But it's not about that. It's about, we're all different, and we all treat things differently. We all have different symptoms of menopause. And it might be that time in our lives we desperately need to go and speak to the GP and get on some different types of medication. And then there might be times in our lives that we think, well, actually, we don't need that medication at that point because I feel okay, or I want to come off medication for my menopause symptoms. So it's really about, people have tried various things. And then the other side of it is that people then just say, well, you know, I've got menopausal symptoms. I don't want to put up with feeling like this. I want to get on the best treatment there is. Can you advise me? And it's like, well, yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
I was going to say, because I'm not a big person for going down the medical route kind of thing. Even when it comes, I very rarely go to the doctors or anything. So I know, and I'm sure you would be the same. The fact that I would try other things kind of first. I don't. I've kind of, even over the years, just going on the pill, I've been very, very cautious because I had a bad experience many years ago where the pill kind of brought on a depression kind of thing, and I didn't realise it at the time. It's obviously a chemical imbalance, and obviously I was told afterwards it was something to do with the estrogen and I can never say that
Yeah.
one. That's the
It'll probably be the progesterone that was in it that made you feel like that.
Right, okay. And it was something to do with my levels didn't suit the levels that was in that particular pill and what have you. And I think from then I've been very, very cautious about. So yeah, I think for me, I personally, but then again, I don't disregard the fact that if my symptoms were so awful and I felt constantly shit all the time, I would absolutely come and see you.
It's working how it's making you feel and what you want to do, because
Yeah.
no, it's not up to people like me to say you've got to do this and you've got to do that. It's about giving people choices and making sure that people understand the risks and the benefits of every single thing that we do. And then ultimately we make that decision ourselves. So, you know, it's best to have an open mind about these things, and then whatever will be. And don't feel guilty about having to go on to HRT if that's how you feel, or feeling guilty for having to stop HRT or continuing HRT. Or not going on HRT. It really is completely your choice, but it's about making decisions at the right time when it suits you.
Yeah.
I think what is good though, Diane, is that there's you as a practitioner, a medical practitioner that is dealing with women's issues, where if you go to your general GP, again, excuse me, we'll cut that. Sorry. Yeah, when you go to your general GP to ask for any help or advice on it, again, sometimes you can be hit with a brick wall. So I think for women to know that they can go to someone and you will completely understand all aspects of where they're coming from, emotionally, physically, chemically, all under one umbrella, I think that obviously will be a far better process for most women. Because let's face it, if you do go to the GP, and we're not kind of saying that men aren't understanding, but on an emotional level, they don't get how we're feeling. Just giving you an example, years ago, I used to have a lot of gynae issues, as I call them, and I had to go into hospital because I bled terribly, didn't I, at work once, and it was a male, obviously gynecologist. But it was extremely distressing in the fact that I was bleeding constantly and nobody knew why or what had happened. As it happened, it was a sheer fluke. They got no explanation for it. Gave me a drug that stopped the bleeding, and that was it. There was no problem. But I think the emotional care wasn't there. Where I think if you are, as a woman, especially going through the menopause, you need that emotional care is as valid as saying, well, try this, take that. That's where I think, this is where you're gonna obviously boom, hopefully, as well, even more by being on our podcast, that women are going to go, well, I know where to go if I can speak to somebody who's going to look at it from all aspects. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where, as nurses, we come in, because going back when I first started my training back in the late 80s, it was very much that you were holding patients' hands when they were crying, they were distressed, when there were bereavements, when some terrible things were going on. People just needed comfort. So that's all part of my inherent training as a nurse and as a person and as a mother and as a menopausal woman as well. And so that's what nurses have to offer. We've got years of experience of seeing everything, of experiencing things. And the one thing that women do know that they get from myself is that compassion, because I do understand, I really do. And I know what you're talking about. I know how you're, not exactly how you're feeling, but what you're portraying, your symptoms, why you're upset, why you're irritated. And I often say that no one's listened to me before. And that's because with all the will in the world, you've got 7 minutes with your GP, but people have an hour talking to me. And during that, it's a case of people offload. I say, what's on your mind? What are the main issues? What are the main questions that you've never got answered? What can I deal with? How can we get through this? How can we put a plan of care together to make you feel better? And that's what it's all about. And it's about answering questions, but listening. And as a nurse, we listen to patients, we listen to women's thoughts and feelings.
I like what you said there as well. It's like putting a plan of care together, kind of like, so, because obviously everyone's symptoms are going to be different, aren't they?
Yeah.
Some, like you say, can experience anything and everything, and then some will have like just a few bits and pieces which are still really detrimental to their health and the way that they feel. So I think the fact that rather than just someone slapping a plaster on it and saying, here you go. So I think that's brilliant. I really do. Where are you in your stage of menopause then, if you don't mind us asking?
Wow. It was a bit of a joke really, but I've been teaching menopause for a long time. But I had absolutely zero symptoms of menopause whatsoever, which is really bizarre. But I'm about a year, 18 months since my symptoms started. But I was well aware of the signs to look for, and I've been looking out for them for quite a few years now, and I had nothing at all. However, when I did start to get some night sweats, that was the only thing that I recognised. I think I had 2. I thought, oh, that's what it is. And so I saw my GP and I got started on some HRT. But it wasn't until I've been on HRT for about 6 weeks I realised that it wasn't just the night sweats. Actually, I was having anxiety, or I had been having a lot of anxiety, but also my brain wasn't working as well. I got brain fog. And so the notorious thing of walking into a room and thinking, what the heck am I doing in here? As you wander around aimlessly trying to retrace your steps, and got your little sticky memos everywhere going, what did I need to do now? And I mustn't forget that. Suddenly I recalled something really weird and bizarre from years ago, and it came to me like that. And I thought, oh, that's the estrogen. It's actually working on me. Oh my gosh. And that was a light bulb moment for me. And I do tell patients that all the time, because it can take quite a few weeks to work for some people. And it took me quite a few weeks before the effects of that. So I went from having brain fog, which I hadn't identified was that significant, until it improved. I realised how bad my brain had been working.
And that is just down to estrogen. Is that the main factor? with menopause. So if you can explain medically then, what happens when estrogen starts to leave your body?
Well, when we hit like, this is like, stereotypical, but it's like, women in mid-40s, for example, your ovaries no longer are producing eggs anymore. They don't need to reproduce. You don't need to have any more children. So the number of eggs left in your ovaries has gone down and down and down. So therefore, your brain's picking up chemicals that your ovaries aren't quite as active, and the estrogen levels are falling down and down. It's nice, slow, steady, but it's down and down and down and down. So as the estrogen levels are dropping, you then produce the symptoms we commonly know about menopausal symptoms. So your flushes and your sweats, your anxiety, low libido, exhaustion, weight gain, those most common symptoms of estrogen deficiency. So this is really to do with the fact that the ovaries are no longer producing estrogen. They produce virtually all of our estrogen. So your body's really clever. So what your body does is it thinks, you're not producing estrogen anymore. I know. We'll produce lots of fat cells, because fat cells produce a type of estrogen. So we're going to replicate the estrogen that we're lacking in from our ovaries in the fat cells. But unfortunately, the type of estrogen that your fat cells produce isn't quite the same estrogen that your ovaries were producing for the menopausal symptoms to develop. So we start to put lots of weight on around our tummies, but it doesn't actually help with the menopausal symptoms. So as the estrogen levels are going down and down and down and down, this is what you develop the symptoms that we call menopausal symptoms. So it's about estrogen deficiency. And that's fundamentally what drives you, the symptoms, but also the short-term symptoms that often send people to the doctor. So your perimenopausal symptoms, obviously you're still menstruating, still having periods, but you're getting all these awful symptoms. So the day you enter the menopause is the very first day of your last period. So it isn't something, that's why it's really important to write down your menstrual cycle, because you work out where you are in your cycle then. You think, I haven't had a period for 2 months, or I haven't had a period for 4.5 months. I've had a little bit of a bleed five months in. I thought I was getting there. And then you carry on, and then it's like, so that's why people like me was very interested in, when was the first day of your last period? Because it helps us work out where you are on that scale. So the peri-menopausal are all the symptoms that you have leading up to the first day of your last period. And so the day you enter the menopause is actually a day. It's the first.
I've read that,
yeah, it's the first day of your very last period. It's the day you enter the menopause, and then that lasts for a year. So you have no bleeding at all for 12 months. Then a year and a day, you're post-menopausal. But the symptoms of estrogen deficiency can start years before and go on for years after as well. So, whether you're still having periods or not doesn't make a huge amount of difference to your symptoms. It just means you're not going to have any periods anymore. And it just means we need to look at your health risks and your health factors in a slightly different way if you're post-menopausal than if you're you're still having regular periods.
Yeah. I was going to say, I was quite surprised then. Do you think this is down to your medical training and your background as to why you immediately went on HRT as soon as you started to recognise the symptoms? Because I've been recognising my personal symptoms for a couple of years now, but I wouldn't have even thought about going on HRT. So do you think it's down to your background as to why you did, or was just a personal choice? Or
no, I knew everything. I know so much about HRT and estrogen and menopause. I don't stop reading about it. Unfortunately, it's quite sad, isn't it? But no,
your passion as well. You can tell you're very passionate about it. So
I am, and I really, really want to support people out there, because the amount of people that are so upset when I speak to them that they've suffered for years. But because I understand about the mechanisms of estrogen, there are risks and benefits with any medication, whether it's over the counter or prescribed. And there are risks associated with HRT, but they're incredibly small to what people believe them to be. So I know the risks and the benefits, and it didn't even come into it. It was like, as soon as I identified it was menopause, I just got straight on the phone and I got straight away started on HRT.
Wow.
And how long will you be taking HRT for?
for as long as I can.
And
We've heard that a lot, haven't we? So
Yeah.
and so that helps physically, emotionally, all aspects of
Mentally.
it. So do you feel like you did before you started entering perimenopause?
Yeah, I mean, my symptoms were really quite subtle. They weren't that dramatic at all. And so, like I said, I felt a bit of a fraud in a way, looking back on it. But they're very subtle with myself. So it was one of those, was that a night sweat or not? That's odd. It's just the fact I'd never experienced that before. So I thought, well, it must be. And then it wasn't until I started on the estrogen, like I said, my brain started to work properly again. But it's just something that I think we just need to be talking a lot more about menopause and talking about the risks and the benefits of HRT. And it's entirely up to you. But when you've got the facts in front of you, you then decide what you want to do, how you want to take, well, the prescriber will discuss the routes of HRT and how long you want to be on it for.
Mm-hmm.
I intend to be on it as long as I can physically stay on it. And that's really what I sort of say to people, but it's very much what you talk to yourself, your prescriber, and about your own physical health, because for me the reasons for going on it were not just for the symptoms, but it's about long-term health. Right. Nursing all these years, I've seen some situations, I've cared for people all the way through, and looking back now with eyes of awareness, I look back and I realised that particularly older women were really suffering from menopausal symptoms, particularly heart disease. But the thing that I recall more than anything is the falls and the osteoporosis.
I was going to mention that. Yeah,
I feel really, really strongly about this. I've cared for that many people, that many women on the orthopaedic wards that have had minor falls, got substantial fractures, which has a huge impact on their quality of life. There's such a high risk of mortality with fractured hips, and a lot of these are preventable with the right knowledge, the right education, the right support, and the right medication as well. I said it is a personal choice, but knowing now what I know, I just wish that, all these people I looked after, that they really suffered. Yeah. When you think to yourself, gosh, if we'd have known about the benefits of HRT at that point, these fractures could have been prevented. It's a massive, massive subject.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you said about the long-term health, because of the whole bone density and everything, and it is a big thing, isn't it, with the estrogen and how it affects our bones and what have you. So yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Could you talk us through the risks and benefits of HRT for anyone listening that doesn't already know?
Okay. I suppose the risks really are associated with the development of hormone-related cancers. There are other cancers that if you've either had or a very, very strong family history of certain types of cancers, that can increase your risks of developing cancer from taking HRT. Because it promotes estrogen growth. It exacerbates estrogen growth. So if you haven't ever had any cancers, then your risks are going to be as low as everybody else. But being overweight is probably the main factor associated with developing any cancer, not just a hormone-related cancer, but cancer. And so that's probably one of the main things to be aware of, is developing hormone-related cancers with taking HRT. The risks are small. They're nothing like what's been portrayed in the media over the years. They are very small, but it's still a risk. And it's all about talking to somebody that understands about menopause, understands about you. That's why menopause treatment and HRT prescribing has to be based on individual needs. It's not like what I might prescribe for you be the same for you, or vice versa. Mm-hmm. It's very much tailored for your individual health history, your own prognosis, your lifestyle factors, your own medication that you take. And then it's working out what's right for you. And it's all about giving you the right menopause management to carry you on for later life, really.
Brilliant. And what about the benefits of the HRT as well?
The benefits, the risks really are associated with the risks of cancer. The benefits outweigh the risks for the majority of women. So the benefits, I think the one thing that we don't talk about are the benefits of HRT. And predominantly this is about protecting your heart and the blood. you've got a small risk of developing breast cancer. That risk is very real, it's there, but it's a very small risk. But the risks of developing heart disease without having HRT, as your estrogen levels fall, are quite staggering, and nobody really talks about this. Nobody thinks about the protective factors of HRT has on your heart and your bones. People always associate it with being a very negative thing, but actually it's all about the positive thing, about how it protects your heart. And so for long-term protection of the heart and the blood vessels, it's really good. It contains lots of different processes and does lots of different things to the blood and to the heart, which have a very positive effect when it's taken in the right way. And then the bones, obviously, you know, it protects, and it actually gives the bones some structure, and it actually helps preserve the bone density as well that we have, which is vital. But you know, it's all about looking at everyone in a holistic way. It's looking at your lifestyle, your family history. If you're overweight, you smoke a lot, you drink too much, you don't take any exercise, your risks of developing any form of cancer are going to be higher because of your lifestyle choices. So that's what I do when I talk to people. It's not just about ticking boxes. It's about, let's see what exercise you could do. Let's think about weight-bearing exercises you can do. Let's address your diet. Are you taking vitamin D? How are you feeling in yourself? Are you a kind of a positive, motivated person? You know, you have quite negative connotations. More people that have a glass half empty kind of an attitude. And I don't mean to put this in a derogatory way, but we all know people like that.
Yeah.
They generally experience more menopausal symptoms, and it's more difficult to manage their menopausal symptoms than the person that's generally glass half full, a lot more optimistic and positive and upbeat. They view menopause and their health in a very different way. And I do see that all the time.
Oh, wow.
And it's really interesting. And I've just done a British Menopause Society course on cognitive behavioural therapy and how you can use that to manage hot flushes instead of offering people HRT. And they were talking a lot about this, and it's fascinating. People's mindset, your behaviour, the way you view yourself and life generally will make you view your menopause and support your menopause, and your symptoms will react in a certain way. It's a huge subject.
It is, yeah. It's brilliant. What out of all the ladies that have been to see you over the years and everything, like, is there a case where someone was so incredibly, like, got every symptom going kind of thing and really, really desperately needed help? Do you find many people like that, or?
Yeah, I do. The majority of women that come to see me, they either the doctor hasn't given them HRT, or the doctors wanted to give them HRT, but because they were in and out in minutes, they got this prescription and then they were scared, and they'd look at this prescription for like months on end, or the doctors prescribed them antidepressants, which they kept saying to me, well, I wasn't depressed, so why would I need an antidepressant or an anti-anxiety medication when I don't want to take tablets anyway? So I've seen people from lots of different things, but I always get people to do like a screening assessment before I see them, and it's a really good way of monitoring the before and the after, really. And then I can see how things have improved. I mean, a lady I spoke to only a few days ago, I reviewed her. It was about 9 months on, so I do several review assessments. But I got her original one up from last year, middle of last year, and then her review screening now, and we've gone from horrific to absolutely nothing.
Oh, wow.
And the review was like, well, I feel great, I feel more positive, I feel like I've got more me back again, and can I just carry on? I went, yeah, absolutely. And it was like, oh, okay. Anything else you'd like to say? Well, not really, I just feel good and I want to stay on it. And I was like, yeah, okay. So, but you know, everyone's different, and if people's symptoms aren't improving as much, then we have to look at it again. Well, what's going on? Like, people have poor sleep. Poor sleep's a really common symptom in menopause, but we have to look at it from the point of view that how long have you had poor sleep for? Is this a long-standing pattern of bad behaviour with your sleep? That menopause has made it worse, but I can't cure something that you've had poor sleep for 25 years. HRT might help that, and we can look at all the different things to improve your sleep patterns that we all know, quite basic things. to some people, but for others it's not. But you know, it's a big subject, so we can address certain things. But if things like poor sleep has been an issue for 30 years, HRT will help improve it a bit, but we're not going to see dramatic improvements.
Yeah.
Look at focus, just maybe speaking to somebody about that in particular. So it's a case of focusing on what hasn't improved as much and what can we do then. It's about networking as well. I network with people, so I'll advise somebody, you know, I think you could recommend speaking to this person, you know, things like, you know, hair loss in menopause, bladder weakness in menopause. And so I've got a good network of health professionals that I can say, you know, just look at these people up and just see what you think about it, because these are the kinds of people that you do need to speak to.
I think that's brilliant as well. I think, you know, I mean, we're all big on women supporting women and everything, and, you know, small businesses and all sorts. And I think it's great that if you know someone who specialises in that, like the hair loss lady and everything. I was actually having a look at that on your website and everything. And I think it's great that you say, it's great you're coming to me and I'm going to forward you to this lady as well, because she really knows her stuff. So I think it's brilliant.
And it is
sorry, carry on.
That's what I was going to say. It's about putting people in touch with people that can specialise in these things, because, you know, I can identify that hair loss is really common during menopause, but it's also common in lots of different things. So we need to rule out other things as well. So I'll generally say, go and see your GP, because you might need a whole load of bloods doing. If they come back okay, you might be deficient in certain vitamins or minerals or thyroid or various things. So it's a case of getting some routine bloods done with your GP. But if they've come back normal, then let's talk about menopause, let's talk about HRT, but let's put you onto somebody that can specialise just in that, because I know nothing about hair, but she does. So it's doing that, really.
I was going to ask, because you were talking about the lady that you share your practice with, that works with aesthetics. Again, what do you think, you know, the women that have come to see you, how they feel about their appearance when it's starting to change due to the menopause? And does HRT help with your skin? With, you know, let's face it, none of us want to kind of get old and decrepit, and I think especially when you're in your 40s, you're still not, and 50s really, you're not that woman that you were in your 30s, but you're not over 60, you're not over 70, so you're still in that kind of playful phase. You still look like you, but there's a few things hanging here, there and everywhere. So does HRT help with that? Or is this where the lady that you work with, that she kind of works her magic to kind of help with confidence? I suppose that's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, I mean, confidence is a big thing that really lacks during the menopause. But the lady that runs Butoxology, her name's Dee Hadley. She's a specialist in aesthetics, so I only rent a room from her. So
right.
I don't work with her like that. It's not kind of arrangement.
Okay.
Her practice, it's her clinic, and I go and work there sometimes to support the menopausal ladies. But I do talk to some of the ladies that she sees as well, because what's interesting is that, and this was actually something that was documented couple of years ago, because I kept the article. It was a breast surgeon in London who was talking about cancer and HRT and things like that. And he was talking about, there were twins that he was caring for. They were in their 70s. They both had breast cancer. So obviously they were suitable for HRT. And he was saying the only difference with them is that one looked a lot younger than the other, because the one was on HRT and the other one wasn't.
Oh, wow.
I always remember that. And so I've actually done my own research about it. And I know that estrogen has a very positive effect on the skin. So it can certainly help with your physical appearance, because it's all about how it impacts on the skin cells itself, but it also affects the collagen production. And so collagen production sort of like deteriorates during the menopause. Now, I'm not a skin specialist, so this is just my bits that I understand. But it all helps with the structure of the cells, and it helps with the hydration of it as well. So it helps boost the collagen production, which in turn helps hydrate the skin, so you look plumped and more youthful, and the skin isn't as dry anymore. Because one of the symptoms of menopause is dry, itchy skin. You get vaginal dryness and things as well. And all this is to do with the lack of estrogen. So when we start to put the body back full of estrogen again, you will see an improvement of these symptoms. But what you were saying about it's that weird age really, isn't it? Because our ovaries are no longer producing the estrogen anymore. And so what I've had to come to terms with, as well as being a menopausal woman, is that I'm not the same person I was in my early 40s. And my estrogen, I'm still taking estrogen in, but my ovaries aren't producing it. So nothing is ever going to be 100% to how it was, because fundamentally our bodies have altered. I'm just getting my estrogen in a different way. But either I've changed, my lifestyle's changed, my mindset has changed, but I'm not getting my estrogen from my ovaries anymore. So there are going to be all those little subtle changes and differences, which will make you slightly different. So although I am sort of like, as active, as crazy as ever, there are changes there. And I think it's all about in your head as well, about the way you view life and the way you view yourself. And it's about being as positive and as driven as possible, and saying, if I've got these symptoms and I want to change this, I don't want to feel like this anymore. It's a case of, well, what do I do about it? And it's a case of doing something about it, finding out about it, finding out what's right for you, and then doing something yourself.
Definitely. I've just got a very random question here for you. Is there anyone that starts taking HRT and they come back to you in a couple of months and they're like, Diane, I've lost no weight. I thought this was going to help, because they think it's going to be some kind of miracle?
Yeah, I never say that at all. In fact, HRT is neutral. So I know people have lost a lot of weight when starting HRT, and I'll tell you, they love me. But as a rule of thumb, I never say that, because it's neutral. Some women lose weight, some women's weight stays the same, and some people put weight on with it. I can't tell you which one you're going to be. I never make claims like that, because it's untrue. And as a health professional, I give you facts, and then you have to make up your own mind what's right for you. But no, I put a bit of weight on, but that wasn't really starting HRT. It was through lockdown, stress and everything, and lockdown itself. But it's a case of just addressing it, really. But we are going to put weight on when we're hitting that middle age. We do put weight on. Our body shape does change. Men put weight on around their tummies. Women put weight on around their tummies. We do alter the way that we look. And so in a way, it's just starting to accept a few things about ourselves, that, like I said, our ovaries are no longer producing that estrogen anymore. We can then supplement it, exactly the same estrogen, in a different way. But we've changed as well. And it's just, we're not the same people as we were when we were 20. Our outlook's different. So we just changed again, but we don't have to look at it in a negative way. It's, I'm full of enthusiasm for women, saying, let's get that support out there and let's make you feel better again. If you want to continue to feel the way you do, then you've got every right to not do anything. But if you want to change, if you'd like to feel better, let's start talking about it. Let's start talking about symptom control. Let's start talking about if HRT is something that you would want to do. And if you do, let's get you on the best one to make you feel better.
Brilliant.
Superb.
And because there are different, is it creams or patches, or is it tablet form? I don't know.
Yeah, there are lots of types of HRT. The ones that I the ones I prescribe are what I class as being the safer versions, and that's when estrogen is absorbed through the skin in either a patch or a gel. And then there are safer and better types of progesterones as well. So this is why you spend an hour talking to me, because I can tell you and explain why certain types of HRT is better than others, and what's going to work, what's going to be better for you. It's like, for example, if you had a lot of heavy bleeding and want to start an HRT, I'd be probably advocating that you talk to your doctor about having the coil fitted, because the coil contains a good type of progesterone it's really good. And so not only is it going to help with HRT, it's going to help with the heavy bleeding, and it helps with contraception as well. And it's long acting, it's there for 5 years. So it's a case of what's going to work for you. But then people go, oh, I couldn't possibly have the coil. And say, well, you don't have to. But some people are like, oh, I haven't thought of it like that. So it's a case of giving people options of what's right for you. Yeah. There's no point me saying, this is what I think you should do, when knowing full well that they're not going to go with it. It's about, what do you want to do? How can I help you? What's the right thing for you? And then giving people the information to make the choice.
I think that's brilliant. And I love the fact that, like you say, you talk about their lifestyle and, you know, whether they're already taking vitamins and everything. So, because you don't get that in that 7 minutes that you do with a doctor, do you? So I
You
think it's
just can't.
absolutely brilliant.
Just
Yeah.
can't, you know, with it, you know, the best GPs in the world, you can't get that level of information in that time. And people come out with like a prescription or a fact sheet. That's a classic one. They told me to look it up themselves. I'm like, oh God, you know, okay.
Oh, no.
But you know, that's all they can really do. Some doctors are great and they're on the ball and they prescribe the best things and that's it. But it's a lot of the time, it's like what you were saying. You just need somebody to listen and really get you and understand where you're coming from and how it's impacting on your life, how it's affected your quality of life. You know, if you can't sleep, you've got night sweats, your relationship's falling apart, you feel dreadful, your hair's falling out, you just feel old and tired, and you just think, where the heck have I gone to? What's happened to me? Why aren't I the person I was before? That's where I support women, and that's why I talk to them about it, because it's about trying to get that back and finding out how you can get that back, whether it's through mindfulness, CBT, exercise, the right lifestyle choices, hormone replacement therapy, whatever that is, or just from talking to me or me providing with lots of information on menopause. And then people then go back and they have a really good read and think about it, and then they make decisions themselves. But it's about information from the right people to make the right choices.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
Brilliant. So I was just going to say, so for anyone who's listening to this and thinks, oh my God, I need to speak to Diane, how would they get in touch with you then?
I've got some website. Well, I've got a website. I've got social media. So my business is borntocare.co.uk. So it's BOURNE 2 borntocare.co.uk. That's my website. But I've got, and you can see my banner behind me here. I've got Menopausal Just Me. I'm doing quite a lot of work for the health services at the moment. So that's my logo, Menopausal Just Me. I'm on Facebook, Born to Care. Twitter, Instagram. But if you just look at the website, which is, like I said, borntocare.co.uk, if you can put a link up or something.
Yeah, we will do at the bottom of the podcast. We always do with guests, so we'll do that anyway and put it on our Facebook page as well.
That's
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. You've been really knowledgeable, because we haven't had a medical professional on yet, have we?
No.
So it's been really, really interesting to it's looking at it from all sides. So we've had women on, like Sue said earlier, we've had general women that are going through it. We've had, people like Jill that works in a holistic way, and how the benefits, obviously we spoke earlier, she's a big advocate of yours, so she kind of likes to bridge the gap between the two as well, which is brilliant. We've had some women that are really alternative, so there's a nice mix, to be fair, so everyone gets a little bit of something, because we all like to pick out what resonates with us. So it's like, for me, it's been interesting to even hear about HRT, because apart from one or two women, we don't really know anyone that's on it, do we?
No, we don't know.
So it's quite interesting to learn, because again, like you say, with the media, it's been portrayed as this drug that was giving women breast cancer. So of course it's all a big, oh no. But to know that there's, the risks are minimal. And there's, like you say, there's risks with all medication. It doesn't matter what you take. If you take a box standard paracetamol, there's going to be a risk to somebody somewhere. So it's just really, really interesting. So thank you so much. You've been absolutely amazing guest. And we will let you know when we're going up. And also, if anyone comes through to us, we will refer them straight through to you, so they can come and knock on your door.
I can see us now going, you need to speak to Diane.
Yeah. I think you're gonna have a row of people all at Bell Broughton. Is it, which is High Street?
High Street. It's Beautoxology,
yeah. So thank you so much. That's been absolutely amazing, Diane.
Lovely. Thank you. It's been really good to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
You too. Thank you.
Take care.